Hi! Last time, in our last video, we talked about how to take your notes and make them into a hamburger. But we focused mostly on the details that go in the middle of the hamburger. So today, we're going to talk about what goes at the top and bottom of the hamburger. So yes, we're going to talk about the buns today. So I'm going to show you how to write a sentence that starts your paragraph and a sentence that ends your paragraph so that it holds the whole story together. If you remember, the topic we were talking about last time was the Mercer girls, and we were working with this first question for our first paragraph of the essay. The first question, why did Seattle need women, and what did Asa Mercer decide to do about it? So then we were filling in the hamburger. We just focused on the details, and we're going to talk about what goes here in the topic sentence at the top of the paragraph. So here are some things we need to know about the topic sentence. First, it needs to answer the essential question in a general way. We want to let the detail sentences in the middle of the hamburger give the specific details. So our topic sentence just needs to focus on answering the essential question in a very general way. So if our question is, why did Seattle need women, and what did Asa Mercer decide to do about it? And this is what I was thinking for our topic sentence. To answer the question, why did Seattle need women, I'm just going to answer it with its same words that are in the question. Seattle needed women because there was a shortage of teachers and wives. Now that's pretty good except for one thing. The thing that's missing in that sentence is that it doesn't give the reader any idea of when or where we're talking about. So you've just said that Seattle needs women, but when? Do we mean like Seattle needed women in the 80s? Do we mean that Seattle needed women last year? Well, no, because that wouldn't make any sense at all. So when you're starting out your essay, your very first sentence of your very first paragraph, you need to make sure to give the reader some context, some time and place. So in other words, if I was telling you a story about my life in an essay, and I started my topic sentence with, I wore diapers, well, I would want to say when I wore diapers, and where, because if I wore diapers to prom, that would be kind of terrible. If I wore diapers to my job interview, that would be very different than if I wore diapers when I was a baby. So you want to make sure and tell your reader when and where you're talking about. So that's one of our topic sentence rules. Remember to give your reader context, which means time and place. So here in our sentence, Seattle needed women because there was a shortage of teachers and wives. We're missing some important information. The context. So I'm just going to add this. In 1864, Seattle needed women because there was a shortage of teachers and wives. Now I have context. I've given my reader the time and place that this is happening. Make sure to do this, especially if it's the very first paragraph of your whole essay. Now we're going to talk about the bottom bun, the concluding sentence. The concluding sentence needs to wrap up the idea that's the paragraph is about, and it needs to give a final answer to the essential question. So, if our essential question, going back again, is why did Seattle need women, then I'm going to give a final answer to that question, like this. I'm going to use one of my sentence starters. You could say in conclusion, you could say it is clear that, you could say in summary, or you could say overall. Those are all good ways to start a concluding sentence. So I used in conclusion because that's an easy one to use. In conclusion, bringing young women to Seattle made it possible for young men to start families and children to be educated. So I've said basically the same thing as in the topic sentence, except just a little different and maybe with a slightly different perspective. I didn't talk about families in the topic sentence, but I'm talking about families in the concluding sentence just to finish up the idea that we needed these women in Seattle so that people could start families and stay here. So now we've got our two buns, the top bun and the bottom bun, and you can see how they are both related to the essential question. If we want to answer the question of why Seattle needed women, then we will start by saying the time and place, giving context, and then we will say that Seattle needed women because there was a shortage of teachers and wives. And then in the middle part, you'll tell all of the details, like really explain what does that mean about teachers and wives and how would those women fit in Seattle. And then here, in conclusion, bringing young women to Seattle made it possible for young men to start families and children to be educated. So now I've come back to the same idea that I started with, just a slightly different way of saying it that kind of closes up the idea. So when you're ready to write your buns for your hamburger, you're going to look at your essential question and just directly answer the question. If you have any questions, you can bring your questions to me either through an email or you can talk to me about them in our meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Bye-bye.